Hello everyone, I'm Dre Daughter, a fantasy writer that loves putting things on tables and charts, and this is the Science of Fantasy. In this episode of Fantasy Worldbuilding, we are going to talk about monsters and how to make and use them in our creations. First of all, what is a monster? According to Encyclopedia Britannica, a monster is a strange or horrible imaginary creature. But my own definition is simpler. A monster is a manifestation of fear. One of the most impactful emotions in the human culture, fear forms the base of law and insurance agencies, but it is also reflected in myths as monsters. You will say that not all fears are monsters. Drowning, for example, but there is a large number of fantastical creatures that use that exact strategy, starting with kelpies and ending with different variations of sirens. Basically, any dangerous place will be populated in our collective consciousness by equally dangerous monsters. Now that we know what they are, let's learn how to make one. Well, the simplest option is simply to copy an existing monster from mythology as it developed organically over thousands of years. And there are plenty of interesting mythologies out there, but that's not what this video is about. To make your own monsters, you have to make sure it projects at least one, but preferably all of the following types of fear: fear of the unknown, fear of death, and fear of loss of control. Of these three, when people think of monsters, they normally think most of them of the fear of death, but both other fears are equally, if not more powerful, and we will talk and analyze each of them. The fear of the unknown is based on the way our brain assumes that an unknown threat is of the worst kind. If an animal hears sound in the forest and assumes it's just the wind, that animal won't survive for long, and it is equally true for our ancestors. To embody this fear, your monster has to be mysterious and weird. Remember the first word in the Britannica definition exactly, it is strange. And what feels the strangest for a human is something they can't categorize. We all love to put things in tiny clear boxes in our head, so when we meet a creature with one eye, we panic. This is why cyclops work and also why monstrous representation of spiders give them a huge number of eyes, despite in reality the number ranging from 0 to 12. As a side note, there is another effect of many eyes of giving the feeling of being outnumbered. What is true for eyes is also true for heads, legs, wings, arms, and mouths. It also helps if you put them in the wrong place. One good example comes from the third book of the Stormlight Archive series, Oathbringer, written by the famous author Brandon Sanderson. Reshefir, the Mind and Mother, is one of the Unmade, a group of 9 powerful monsters. Despite being fairly easily defeated, she seems extremely dangerous thanks to the fact that it is described as some sort of dark, looming presence and is surrounded by much mystery and legends. The fear of death is more generally saying the fear of anything that can reduce the chance of survival. It is the fear of heights, drowning, being beaten, diseased, or sickened. As the most fundamental fear, it is also the easiest to exploit. And the masters that specialize in this fear resemble the most our ancient predators with pointed teeth, sharp claws, and ambush tactics. This is also why most monsters are half lions, while the other half being something at least as deadly. But there is one animal more feared than the lion for its ability to kill you with one bite, and that is the venomous snake. Basilisk, weaver, medusa, sea serpents are all created after it. This attribute is also shared by scorpions and certain species of spiders, and they are also very prevalent. To make the ultimate deadly monster, base it on the most lethal one-hit kill creature in the setting. An example of a purely destructive monster is the Skryel from The Name of the Wind, written by Patrick Rothfuss. These are spider-like creatures that are very dangerous because of their razor-sharp teeth that can cause some pretty dangerous ones. Their lethality is created by their tendency to travel in groups, making an encounter with them very hard to survive past. The fear of loss of control is, I think, the secret weapon of great monster building. Most people are more scared by the idea of being alive and not having control of the work they are doing than the idea of dying. Here, I think there are 3 levels of loss of control that we have to make a distinction between. Physical loss of control. This is when your movement is restrained, and some of the most common methods seen in the natural world are tentacles, pinchers, and sticky substances. Want a quick master? Just give a human tentacles instead of arms, and that's it. Mental loss of control. This is the domain of confusion, memory wiping, and identity loss. You lose against this sort of master, you don't die, but you are no longer you, at least as the mind is concerned. Existential loss of control. This is what some of the most iconic monsters give the monsters that make you one of them. Vampires, werewolves, and zombies are some of the most popular and I think overused monsters in the literature, movies, and games. These also have the side effect of offering a reason for why don't all these monsters die if they are so hunted, and stopping in the primal fear of diseases. One of the most iconic monsters in the famous TTRPG Dungeons and Dragons is the Mind Flayer, also named Illithid, and this is a very good example for all the three types of loss of control. It has tentacles that can physically restrain you, psionic powers that can mentally control other people and create trials, and new Mind Flayers are made by a process named seromorphosis, which involves implanting a larva, a tadpole, in a humanoid host that slowly transforms it into a new Illithid. But monsters do not only need to be mysterious killing machines that can take your freedom away, they also need to be defeated, and this is what weaknesses are for. Monster weaknesses appear for the oldest times in legends. Monsters with a petrifying gaze can be countered by using a mirror to deflect it back. Lycanthropes are vulnerable to silver, fairy, vulnerable to cold iron, and vampires can be hurt with sunlight, garlic, holy water, running water, crosses, wooden stakes implanted in their heart. Otherwise, invulnerable monsters can be killed with a simple trick, and you may wonder why. After all, these weaknesses only make the fights with the monsters anticlimactic. The answer stays in the first of these fears that we talk about, the fear of unknown. By learning or coming with the idea of how to defeat the monsters, you overcome the unknown with new knowledge. Just like the fear of death can be overcome by getting into courage to battle the monster, the fear of unknown is overcome by having more information about it, and what better information than a means to transform an invulnerable monster into a vulnerable foe? Be creative in choosing the weaknesses. Do not be content to stick with the same silver and light. Just think at the wide range of things that the human can be allergic at. So you decided what fears the monster taps into and based your design on that and chose a vulnerability that is hopefully not random and makes sense in the context. But your monster still seems unfinished. Why is that? Because it lacks a story. If we look in the legend, each master has a story, most often tragic. Some were mortals that were punished by the gods, some are the offsprings of greater monsters or divine beings, and some simply got that curse from another monster or nefarious sorcerer. The story is important because it grounds the master into the reality of your novel, movie, or game world. Another important aspect is that it gives the master a purpose and justification for their actions. After all, monsters are also characters. There are so many master stories, so write in the comments your favorite one to continue the discussion. It helps a lot. The next video I plan to base something special that will hopefully revive this channel. It's a surprise, so if you are curious, subscribe. Also, if you are enjoying my work, like, share and check out my other videos to help me in the fight against the YouTube guys that seem to consider me for some reason hopeless. Until next time, happy reading, happy world building, happy writing. See you soon!